Welcome to Cardboard Swords and the latest in our Fab for Less budget deck tech series. Today we're brewing around the bad girl warrior of Crucible of War, Kasai. We've got a £25 card value limit. She'll slash for cash. Let's get in. Kessai, Centauri Sellsword, was the second warrior to enter the game of Flesh and Blood. She came way back in the Crucible of War era. Her ability enables your second sword attack to cost one less. Then, at the end of the turn, if you've swung with 2 or more weapons this turn, you will gain a copper token. You can't help but love these cash for kills sellsword mechanics. The weapon of choice for Kasai is her Centauri Sabres. These are one-handed weapons, so you can wield 2 of these. Each one costs 1 resource to attack for 2, but if it's defended by an attack action card, it'll gain a small buff of +1. Also, don't forget that if you give the first one go again, your second attack with the second sabre is free thanks to Kasai's ability. And that's going to form the basis for our game plan. We're going to swing with our first sabre. We're going to give it go again. We're going to then swing with our second sabre. That's going to give us a copper token. We can then cash out these copper tokens on something like blood on our hands for a big turn payoff. In the head slot, we're running the Helm of Sharp-Eye. Now, I'm not going to lie, we don't use the ability on this very much, only when we're in a pinch, but it's a strictly better upgrade than the Iron Rot Helm. We've also got the Blossom of Spring, which can provide us an extra resource when we need it to fuel a big turn. Gallantry Gold can help us buff our swords, especially when we're swinging more than once with them. And on the legs, we're wearing some Refraction Bolters. These block for 1 and can give one of our swords go again in a pinch. This is a really good card, but there's an even better one available in Valiant Dynamo, but unless you've got £100 knocking about for one of those, this is the budget option. Back in the locker, we've got some Ironhide equipment for those heavy hitting heroes or those heroes with on-hit effects, and we've also got some Spell Fray for against those wizards. The first thing we want to do with this deck is start to slash for cash. We need to swing both of our sabres in order to use Kasai's ability to get a copper at the end of turn. We've got some action cards that will give your next weapon attack go again. Hit and Run also provides a buff as long as it's not your first weapon attack that turn. Precision Press is a new card from Dynasty that, as well as giving go again, will also give your next weapon attack piercing, making it difficult to block with equipment. Blade Runner is an attack reaction that's an absolute all-star in this deck, so we're running all 6 copies. This gives your weapon go again and also gives a buff to your next weapon attack. We've also got Glint the Quicksilver, a majestic back from Welcome to Wraith. Glint the Quicksilver will give your weapon go again, and it has the reprise trigger, so if your opponent has defended with a card from hand, it'll also draw you a card, which is massive. And if all else fails, we've also got the Refraction Bolters. On hit, we can pop these to give us go again on our weapon. We've also got some action cards to preload our weapon with buffs, things like Sharpened Steel, which costs nothing, and it gives our next weapon attack +3. Outland Skirmish is just a strictly better Sharpened Steel, as when the next attack hits you'll also gain a copper. And Slice and Dice is another fantastic card in this deck. It gives your first attack +1 and your next attack +3. We've also got Hit and Run and Second Swing, which are really good at preloading your second sword attack. And the real strength of Hit and Run is in its utility, as you can also use it before your first attack to give it go again. The problem with preloading our attacks is that all the information's out on the table. Where Warrior really shines is in the reaction step. Blade Runner gives us that go again that we need on our first weapon attack and buffs our second. Puncture is a new attack reaction from Dynasty, which, as well as giving our weapon a buff, also gives it piercing, helping us to push damage through equipment blocks. And then we've got some reactions that are a little bit conditional, things like Ironsong Response, which is free to play, but it only actually does anything if our opponent has blocked with a card from hand to trigger the reprise. We've got In the Swing, which is free to play, but you can only play it on your second or later weapon attack. And then Overpower, which is a really good late game card because it's able to push that little bit of damage you need, and it's blue, so you're going to pitch it early. Another great late game finisher card is Steelblade Shunt, which is a defense reaction that if it blocks a weapon attack, it deals 1 damage to the opposing hero. You'd be surprised how many times this card can finish a game. And then once we've built up our copper and chipped away at our opponent, we want our payoff turn, Blood on her hands. This card's free to play, but as an additional cost you can destroy any number of copper tokens that you control. For each copper destroyed this way you can choose each mode up to twice. The modes are that a target one-handed weapon has +1 attack while attacking this turn, target one-handed weapon has go again while attacking this turn, and target one-handed weapon may attack twice this turn. This card is what enables the deck to break the maths of Flesh and Blood and do some fundamentally unfair things. This is our finisher. This is what's going to win us games. Okay, let's have a look at some sample hands. Now, I haven't had many reps on Kasai, so let's see how this goes. Okay, turn 1. It looks okay. We can definitely give our sword go again and start to generate some copper. So we're going to swing with the sabre. We use Blade Runner to give it go again. That'll give the second attack a buff. We've also got second swing as well to give it a really big buff. So we've swung twice, we'll generate a copper. Presented 11 damage that turn. Managed to keep a card for Arsenal. Hit and run's a pretty good Arsenal target because it's quite a versatile card. Turn 2, let's have a look. Okay. Outland Skirmish is good to see early in the game because it helps us generate a little bit more copper. We've got go again with our hit and run, so we can swing twice. So we'll play the yellow one out because we don't need as many resources on this turn. We'll pay 1 to swing the sword. We'll play hit and run again to give a buff to our next sabre. We can pocket that in the swing for a later turn, presenting 10 damage, generating 2 copper potentially with the Outland Skirmish. Okay, turn 3. Another Outland Skirmish. We've got 2 Outland Skirmishes, so we can potentially create quite a lot of copper here, getting ready for a big turn 4 to try and maybe finish the game. We're going to present a sabre for 7 and potentially creating 2 coppers on hit. So they're potentially going to block that. We can use the Glint the Quicksilver to then present the other sabre and attack react with it in the swing, making sure we get a sword hit. We're going to generate 3 copper there and present a good chunk of damage as well. We're up to 6 copper. Right, we need that big turn now. Let's try and finish this. Okay, blood on our hands. That's the card we need. We'll crack the Blossom of Spring to give us the extra resource we need to power this big turn. We can play blood on her hands. And we've got 6 copper available, so we'll use all of those to select each mode twice. That means we're going to get a buff of 1 on each of our swords. Each sword will get go again. We'll be able to swing an additional time with each of them. We've then got Slice and Dice, which is going to buff it again, which means the first sabre is going to present 4 with go again. We're going to buff that to 7. We're going to swing with the second sabre with Kessai's ability, so it's free. We're going to pay 1 for Blade Runner, which will give our next sabre attack +3. We're going to come in with the next sabre, paying 1, which leaves us 1 resource to come again with the last sabre. And that's going to present 22 damage. Good night and God bless. Having a quick look at the deck, we've got 13 blue pitch cards, which is enough to be fairly resilient against those ice heroes. We've got 15 sources of go again, so we can always get go again on our first sabre attack, and 18 attack reactions to keep our opponents guessing in the reaction step. Okay, let's have a look at our budget breakdown. We've got 5 Majestics in this deck, which isn't bad for a budget build. We've also got 14 rares. We've got 2 copies of Blood on our hands, which is a key card, and it is the most expensive card in the deck, but it's definitely a necessary one. The budget for the overall card value in the deck was £25. Using the Cardmarket Shopping Wizard, our list came in at €25.25. With the current exchange rate, that means that in British pounds, this deck will set you back £21.85. That means that if you live in the UK and you want to get this list delivered to your door, you can do that for a little over £25. Now there's no pre-con Blitz available for Kasai, so if you do like the look of this hero, this might be a good list to start with. I think that the warrior class as a whole is a pretty good place to start with Flesh and Blood. It enables you to learn the fundamentals of the game around blocking and attacking and playing in the reaction step, when to spend your hand and when to set up for a bigger turn. If you wanted to consider a budget upgrade, Spoils of War is definitely a card that would fit into this deck really nicely. This card does everything that Kasai wants to do, but it's just not within our budget. As always, the link's in the description. I hope you found this useful. Pretty soon we're going to be getting some gameplay footage of these Fab for Less decks up on our channel, so like and subscribe, and thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.